Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the gentle sound of wind moving through tall green grass. The air is cool, clean, and sweet, filled with the scent of wildflowers. Somewhere in the distance, you can hear the soft echo of ocean waves brushing against rocky shores. This is Ireland, long before cities, long before kings, long before the noise of the modern world. Here, the land itself seems alive, ancient and patient, wrapped in mist and memory. We begin in a time before written words, a time when stories were carried only by voices, whispered by firelight in round huts made of wood and straw. The people who lived here, the Celts, believed the world around them was full of magic. Every hill, every stream, every old oak tree had a spirit living inside it. To them, nature wasn't separate, it was family. Imagine walking through a forest at dusk. The trees are so tall you can barely see the fading sky above. The ground is soft beneath your feet, covered in moss. Somewhere nearby, a small stream sings to itself as it moves over smooth stones. A figure stands beside it, a druid, wrapped in a woolen cloak, watching the water flow. He closes his eyes, listening. This was how wisdom began in early Ireland, not from books, but from silence, from observation, from connection. The Celts who came to Ireland around 500 BC brought with them their own language, their gods, their music, and their sense of rhythm, not just in song, but in life itself. They were farmers, warriors, poets, and craftsmen. They built ring forts on hills to protect their families and cattle, and they carved intricate patterns into stone, patterns that still whisper their stories today. These swirling lines, spirals, knots, and circles all carried meaning, the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Life was not easy, but it was balanced. Mornings began with the light mist rolling over the fields, and evenings ended by the warmth of fire. Families gathered together, telling stories of heroes and spirits, of great battles and peaceful harvests. To them, the world was full of unseen things, fairies who lived in mounds, gods who shaped the weather, and ancestors who never truly left. These beliefs gave comfort in a wild, uncertain land. If you look closely in your mind's eye, you might see one of those villages now. Round houses clustered on a hill, smoke rising lazily from their roofs. Children running barefoot through the grass, women weaving wool by the doorway, men repairing wooden fences or sharpening bronze tools. Life moving slowly, rhythmically, guided by the seasons. In spring, planting. In summer, at night, the world became even more mysterious. The Celts believed that during the dark hours, the veil between this world and the next grew thin. Spirits could pass through, just as dreams drift into waking thought. And so, they lit fires not only for warmth, but for protection, small beacons of comfort against the unknown. Fire was sacred, as was the land, and the cycle of life that connected everything. And above it all, Ireland stood still, timeless, green, and ancient. The rivers shimmered like silver ribbons under the moonlight, and the hills rolled endlessly, like soft waves of emerald velvet. Even now, thousands of years later, if you stand on a quiet Irish hill at night, you can almost feel the presence of those first people. their breath in the wind, their stories in the stones, their faith in the soil. As the night deepens and the mist begins to thicken, let us drift further into the unfolding story of this land. The Celts have given Ireland its heartbeat. The air over Ireland grows quieter now. Centuries have passed since the first Celtic chieftains raised their stone circles. The fires still burn on the hills, and the stories are still told. But change is coming, slow as dawn breaking over the sea. Across the horizon, ships begin to appear, small wooden vessels carrying men who do not come to conquer, but to teach. Among them is one whose name will echo through all of Irish history, Patrick. Imagine for a moment, standing on a windswept shore. The sand is cool beneath your feet, and gulls cry softly overhead. Out at sea, the morning fog lifts, and you see a figure stepping from a simple boat. His robe is coarse, his face weathered by travel, but his eyes hold a quiet light. He carries no sword, no banner, only a wooden staff and a heart filled with purpose. This is St. Patrick, the man who would weave a new story into the fabric of Ireland's soul. Patrick did not arrive to erase the old ways. Instead, he spoke softly, listening to the rhythm of the people's beliefs. The Celts already knew of spirits and unseen powers. Patrick only gave those mysteries new names, new meanings. He told of a single God who made the rivers, the wind, and the stars. A God not unlike the forces they already honored. And so, little by little, the old fires were lit for new prayers. In green valleys and quiet glens, wooden crosses began to appear. Small gatherings formed under trees or near wells, places the Celts already held sacred. The blending of faiths was gentle, not a battle, but a conversation. And soon, monasteries began to rise from the earth like seeds of learning. These were not cold stone fortresses, but warm havens of peace, where monks worked and prayed from dawn till dusk. Picture one of those monasteries now. A ring of low buildings made from timber and stone, smoke curling softly from their roofs. Inside, men in plain robes bend over parchment, copying words by candlelight. The sound of quills scratching fills the silence, slow, steady, rhythmic. Outside, the grass ripples in the wind. A bell tolls in the distance. Time moves softly here. Ireland began to change, not with war or empire, but with thought. Monks and scholars traveled from village to village, teaching not only scripture, but also writing, numbers, and art. They illuminated books with gold and color, turning stories into shining patterns. These illuminated manuscripts, like the famous Book of Kells, would become among the most beautiful in the world. Every swirl of ink, every letter, was a prayer made visible. But still, the heartbeat of the old Celtic world remained. The festivals of the seasons continued, now woven with Christian meaning. Samhain, the festival of the dead, became All Hallows' Eve. Imbolc, the time of early spring, became St. Brigid's Day. The land remembered, even as it learned new songs. And as Ireland found peace in faith, it also found solitude, an island of learning, untouched by the chaos that would soon sweep across Europe. Scholars from distant lands would come here to study, to think, to rest. Ireland became a light in the dark, a quiet keeper of wisdom. As the night deepens, imagine walking past one of those monasteries. The walls glow faintly in the moonlight. The sound of chanting drifts through the open door, soft, steady, like the rhythm of the sea. The monks' voices rise and fall, ancient and calm. In that stillness, Ireland sleeps peacefully, holding the memory of its past and the promise of its future. And somewhere in the gentle dark, a single candle flickers, its flame steady, its light eternal. The rhythm of Ireland continues, gentle and steady, as the centuries drift by like clouds across a quiet sky. Monasteries glow softly in the darkness. Fields are tended with care. Stories rise from warm hearth fires, filling the night with comfort. But far across the sea, a new wind begins to stir. Not a storm, just a change. Slow at first, like the distant sound of oars touching water. Imagine you are standing on a quiet coastline in the early morning. A soft mist hangs low over the shore, and the sand is cool beneath your feet. The waves move in a calm, sleepy rhythm. The world feels hushed, as if holding its breath. You gaze out at the horizon and notice shapes moving through the fog. Long wooden boats, slender and graceful, gliding across the water with silent determination. Their sails are pale against the morning sky. They draw closer and closer. These are the Norsemen, the Vikings, arriving in Ireland in the late 700s. In many stories, they are often described with fear and thunder. But tonight, we will not awaken that noise. Instead, imagine them as travelers from another world, curious, searching, guided across the sea by stars and whispers of opportunity. Their boats touch the sand with barely a sound. The men step onto the shore, listening to the rustle of wind through the grass, feeling the strangeness of this new land beneath their feet. They did not speak the language of the Irish. They did not share their stories or beliefs. But like all people who travel far from home, they carried with them their hopes, their customs, and their hunger for a place in the world. At first, the contact was sudden and unsettling for Ireland. Monasteries, those peaceful homes of learning, were among the first places the Vikings reached. But tonight, we will not focus on clash or fear. Instead, let us watch how two very different worlds. The Vikings settled near the coasts, drawn to the rivers that led inland. They built small camps, which grew into towns, places like Dublin, Waterford, and Limerick. Picture Dublin in its earliest form, a cluster of wooden houses near the River Liffey, smoke rising gently from hearths, the sound of craftsmen shaping metal and wood. It is different from Celtic roundhouses, different from monasteries. Yet life here also moves with its own simple rhythm. Over time, the Irish and the Vikings began to meet not just as strangers, but as neighbors. There were moments of tension, yes, but also moments of trade, of exchange, of learning. Imagine a Viking craftsman showing an Irish blacksmith a new way to shape iron. Imagine an Irish storyteller sharing tales of ancient heroes by a fire, while Viking children listen wide-eyed. The sea, once a barrier, slowly becomes a bridge. The Vikings brought ships that cut through waves like swift birds, and the Irish brought stories and songs that carried meaning through generations. One had strength in travel, the other in memory. And somewhere in between, a new chapter of Ireland was quietly being written, not in conflict, but in connection. Walk through an early Viking Irish settlement in your imagination. Wooden homes line a narrow path. Lantern light flickers in doorways. The scent of fish and fresh bread hangs in the air. Children run between houses, their laughter soft and free. Inside, families sit close together, sharing food, sharing stories, sharing warmth. Outside, the river glimmers under the moonlight, carrying both past and future upon its surface. As the years pass, the Vikings do not remain outsiders. Many settle permanently, marry into Irish families, raise children who know both worlds, the old Celtic tales and the far northern sagas. Languages begin to mix. By the time this chapter softens into twilight, the Vikings are no longer visitors, but part of Ireland's heartbeat. Their towns begin to flourish, becoming vibrant centers of trade and craft. And through it all, Ireland remains what it has always been: patient, green, and wise. A land that absorbs change without losing itself. The night settles a little deeper, and the waves grow quieter, as if resting after centuries of travel. Ireland sleeps with new memories now. Memories of long ships on silver waters, of languages meeting like shore and sea. The island dreams of what comes next, a new arrival on the horizon, already stirring. The soft rhythm of the waves never stops. It whispers through Ireland's long coastline, carrying memories of the Celts, of monks, of Vikings. For a time, the land rests. The fields are green again, the rivers quiet, and the markets in small coastal towns hum gently with life. But history never sleeps for long. Far across the sea, another tide begins to move, one that will bring with it new names, new castles, and new rulers. Imagine an early morning mist lying low over the Irish countryside. The air is cool and still. In the distance, a bell tolls from a monastery, its tone deep and steady. Farmers begin their day, guiding cattle through the dew-covered grass. Everything feels peaceful, timeless. Yet beyond the Irish Sea, in England and Wales, the Norman lords are restless. It is the late 12th century now, and Ireland's quiet days are about to change. The story begins, softly, with an invitation. An Irish king, seeking help in a local feud, asks Norman knights from Wales to aid him. He could not have known that his call would open the door for centuries of change. The Normans arrive, armored men from a world of stone fortresses and strict order. They step ashore, not as raiders, but as guests, at least at first. Their arrival is calm, almost polite, but history has its own way of spreading roots once they touch the soil. Picture the land they saw: green fields, wide rivers, forests of oak and ash. The Normans looked upon it with admiration and ambition. Soon, they began to build in their own style. Where once there were wooden Viking homes and circular Celtic forts, tall stone towers began to rise. Castles appeared on hilltops, watching over valleys and rivers. The rhythm of Ireland's landscape began to change. Still beautiful, still alive. Walk through a Norman castle in your imagination. The walls are thick and cool to the touch. Torches flicker against the stone. The air smells of smoke and earth. Outside, the land stretches endlessly in soft green folds. Below the castle, farmers work the soil. Children chase each other through tall grass, and traders pass through markets filled with chatter. The world feels heavier now, slower, structured, but not without peace. The Normans brought new ways of farming, new laws, and new architecture. They built towns that would last for centuries. Roads began to link villages that once stood apart. For many Irish families, life continued quietly, working, planting, telling stories by the fire. But beneath that calm, something subtle was shifting. A new kind of rule was taking hold, one that would weave itself into every part of Irish life. And yet, as always, Ireland adapted. The old Celtic heart kept beating under the Norman stone. The people learned to live with the newcomers, to trade, to share, and sometimes even to marry. Languages blended, just as they had with the Vikings before. The soft Irish tongue began to carry Norman words, and the Norman speech began to carry Irish sounds. History once again found its balance between change and continuity. As night falls over a Norman castle, you might hear the faint sound of music from a hall, a harp being played, the notes drifting gently through stone corridors. Down in the valley, farmers light their fires, the smoke rising toward the stars. The land is quiet again, but different now. It holds the echo of hooves, the murmur of foreign prayer, the scent of stone and earth mixed together. Ireland is learning a new rhythm, slower, heavier, but still graceful. Through the centuries that follow, the line between Irish and Norman fades. They become one people, sharing the same green fields and the same soft rain. And yet, in the stillness of the night, the land remembers. It remembers the freedom of the Celts, the wisdom of the monks, the sails of the Vikings. Now, it adds to those memories the sound of footsteps on castle stairs, the low hum of change settling in like mist over the hills. The stars above shine quietly, unchanged by time, and beneath them, Ireland breathes. Strong, steady, eternal. Ireland moves gently through time, as it always has. The Norman castles stand like quiet sentinels over green valleys, and villages continue to grow around their stone walls. Families work the fields, children play near rivers, and stories rise with the evening smoke, curling into the night sky. Life feels steady, familiar, but in the distance, a new presence begins to take shape, not of travelers or invited guests, but of a crown seeking control. The English crown. It begins softly, almost quietly, with letters and laws rather than swords. The kings of England claim that Ireland belongs under their rule, a belief that grows slowly but steadily, like a vine winding its way through an old stone wall. For a while, the Norman Irish lords, now rooted in Irish soil, continue to live freely, guided by local customs and a blend of cultures. But England watches from across the sea, patient and persistent. Imagine a harbor at dusk. The waves move gently as wooden ships arrive from England, their sails lowering as they glide toward the shore. On board are officials, scribes, and men carrying new laws written on parchment. They bring not violence, but structure, rules designed far away from the quiet hills of Ireland. Their voices are firm, but the land listens with caution, not fear. Ireland has seen change before, and it knows how to breathe through it. As the years pass, English influence grows inch by inch. Castles that once flew Norman banners now fly the symbol of the English crown. Courts and councils form, introducing new ways of rule. English becomes a language of power, though Irish remains the language of the people. Soft, musical, spoken in fields, in homes, and in stories passed down at night. The two worlds exist side by side, not as one, but not fully apart. Walk through a small town of this period in your imagination. The streets are narrow and lined with simple houses. At the center stands a stone building where new laws are read aloud. Villagers gather, listening quietly. Some understand every word, others catch only fragments. The words fall gently on the crowd, not yet heavy, but with a weight that hints at what may come. Still, life goes on. The baker shapes his dough at sunrise. The blacksmith hammers iron with slow, steady rhythm. Children chase each other through the streets, laughing as freely as ever. For most families, daily life does not change overnight. People continue to tend sheep on the hills, gather around fires on cool evenings, and celebrate the seasons as their ancestors did. Weddings are filled with song and dancing, and harvest meals bring villages together in warm companionship. In the quiet moments, it feels as if the land itself protects its people, wrapping them in mist, in music, in memory. But beneath the gentle surface, a subtle shift is taking place. The English crown begins to ask for loyalty, obedience, and land. Some Irish lords agree, hoping for peace. Others resist softly, holding on to old customs with quiet determination. It is not yet a loud conflict, more like a tension that hums beneath the calm, like a faint breeze that stirs the grass before a change in weather. Still, Ireland remains beautiful, resilient, and deeply itself. The rivers continue to sparkle under the sunlight. The fields stretch wide and green. The coastline curves gracefully, kissed by soft waves. At night, when the moon rises over the hills, the land appears untouched by rule or borders, vast, peaceful, and eternal. It is in these moments that the Irish spirit grows stronger, rooted in the soil, in story, in song. As we stand in this chapter of history, the feeling is not yet heavy. It is a quiet pause before deeper change, a moment of breath, of stillness, of watching the horizon. For now, the English crown is present, but the heart of Ireland still beats to its own ancient rhythm, steady, gentle, and full of life. With the night settling softly over the island, lanterns glow in windows, casting warm circles of light onto the ground. Families close their doors, whisper prayers, and let the quiet embrace them. Ireland sleeps, aware of the shifting future, but comforted by its roots. The land holds history like a lullaby, soothing and serene. English and Irish influence. Harbor with wooden ships arriving. Townsfolk gathered near stone courthouse. Warm lantern light. Misty hills in background. Ultra-realistic, 4K, peaceful mood. The soft winds still move over Ireland's hills, brushing through long grass and whispering through the ruins of old stone walls. On the surface, everything seems quiet. The English crown governs the island, its rules reaching from coast to coast. And yet, in the quiet spaces, in the small cottages, in the deep valleys, another rhythm lives, one that beats with the memory of the old Ireland. It is not rebellion yet, not noise or anger, only memory, a calm, steady remembrance. Imagine an evening in the countryside. The sun is setting behind rolling hills, painting the sky in warm shades of gold and rose. Smoke drifts lazily from the chimneys of small cottages. Inside one of them, a family gathers by the hearth. The mother hums softly while stirring a pot of stew. The father sits beside the fire, pointing. In these homes, in these stories, Ireland kept its identity alive. Even as foreign lords governed the land, the Irish spirit lived on in the music, in the words, in the faith of ordinary people. Songs were sung in quiet corners, passed from one generation to the next. In fields and taverns, men played harps and fiddles, their melodies full of longing and pride. The people may have lost power, but they never lost themselves. Walk with me now through a small Irish village during this time. The lanes are narrow and muddy, the roofs thatched and low. You can hear the soft rhythm of footsteps, the distant call of a cow, the smell of peat smoke hanging in the evening air. Near the chapel, a few villagers gather, speaking in hushed tones, not of rebellion, but of hope. They dream of fairness, of freedom, of the right to live as their ancestors did, in harmony with their land. The 16th and 17th centuries bring new pressures. English settlers begin to arrive in greater numbers, claiming lands that once belonged to Irish families. The system of life changes quietly but deeply. Many Irish farmers now work on soil they no longer own. The days grow heavier, the seasons slower. Yet even in hardship, the people endure. Their faith, their language, and their love for the land remain unbroken. The Irish spirit is not loud. It is patient, like the sea that never stops moving, no matter how strong the tide. Imagine the countryside after rain. The earth smells rich and alive. A thin mist floats above the ground. Farmers walk the fields in silence, their boots sinking softly into the soil. They look up to the gray sky and then back to the ground that has fed generations. There is sadness, yes, but also peace, a deep, quiet strength that refuses to fade. During these centuries, monasteries crumble, castles rise, and towns expand. Yet far from the cities, in the wild beauty of the West, the true soul of Ireland continues to breathe. In lonely cottages and mountain valleys, in whispered songs and secret gatherings, people keep alive the stories of old, the legends of Cú Chulainn, the heroes of Tara, the memory of freedom. And so, under English rule, another Ireland exists, one of dreams, of poetry, of resilience. The poets write in secret, their verses soft as rain. The musicians play tunes that sound like sighs carried by wind. The faith remains strong, lighting candles in the dark. The people adapt, but they never surrender their heart. As the night deepens, listen closely. You might hear the faint notes of a harp drifting across the hills, carried by the wind. Each note is a memory of laughter, of loss, of belonging. It tells the story of a people who cannot be silenced, even when they whisper. The Irish identity, like the mist, moves gently over the land, hard to capture, impossible to destroy. And when the stars rise over the quiet countryside, the island seems to exhale. The land, though changed, is still alive, still Irish, still eternal. The moon hangs quietly above the Irish sky. The land below lies still, yet something has changed. Beneath the silence, a soft tremor of restlessness moves, gentle but steady. The people have endured centuries of loss, of laws not their own, of lands taken and voices hushed. But now, whispers of change begin to stir. Not the shouts of battle yet, only the quiet sound of awakening hope. Imagine walking through a small Irish town in the late 1700s. The cobblestone streets are damp from evening rain. Lamps glow faintly in the fog, lighting the narrow paths between taverns and markets. Inside one tavern, the air is thick with the scent of ale and peat smoke. Men sit close, speaking in low voices about freedom, not in anger, but in longing. They talk of equality, of rights, of a future where Ireland could stand on its own. Each word is careful, because walls have ears. The world around Ireland is changing. Across the sea, revolutions rise in America, in France, and their echoes reach Irish shores. Ordinary farmers and craftsmen begin to wonder, if others can rise for freedom, why can't we? The thought is fragile, but it grows stronger with each passing year. In the countryside, young men form small secret groups, not soldiers yet, but dreamers. They call themselves the United Irishmen. Their hearts beat fast with courage and fear, both at once. Let's take a slow walk through their villages. The night is cool, the stars faint above misty hills. A soft drizzle falls as they gather in barns or by candlelight in quiet rooms. They speak of a united people, Catholics and Protestants, rich and poor, standing together as one. Their dream is simple but powerful, an Ireland free, equal, and at peace. Outside, the wind hums through the trees, as if the island itself is listening. But change never comes easily. In 1798, rebellion finally arrives, sudden, fierce, and tragic. The hills echo with cries and gunfire for a short time, before silence returns. The dream is wounded, but not gone. The fields that once burned grow green again, yet beneath them lie memories of those who believed in freedom so deeply that they gave everything for it. In the stillness that follows, grief and pride mix together like rain and mist. Picture an old Irish woman sitting by her cottage door years later. Her eyes are tired, but gentle. She hums a soft tune, an old rebel song. The melody drifts across the valley like a sigh. She lost her sons to that dream, yet she still sings it, because even after defeat, hope does not vanish. It settles quietly in the heart, waiting for another dawn. Through the 19th century, Ireland faces new trials, famine, poverty, exile, but also a deeper unity. People begin to rediscover their language, their traditions, their pride. The Irish harp, once forbidden, becomes a symbol of identity. Poets write verses that sound like prayers. Farmers and teachers speak softly of a day when Ireland will once again be free, not through war, but through spirit, through will, through endurance. Imagine walking through the countryside now, decades later. The air smells of wet earth after rain. You see children running barefoot through green fields, their laughter soft and light. In schools, teachers quietly teach Gaelic words. In homes, mothers tell stories of the heroes of old. These are small acts, gentle as candle flames, but together they keep the light alive. As the 1800s fade into night, the Irish dream glows quietly on the horizon. The land has suffered, yes, but it is never forgotten. The spirit that once sang through harps and whispered in rebel hearts still moves with the wind, carrying hope forward, softly, endlessly. So as the stars rise over Ireland once again, you can almost hear the heartbeat of the land. Slow, steady, patient, waiting for its time to come. And beneath that calm sky, hope rests, not gone, only asleep. The air over Ireland grows heavy. The green fields, once rich and full of life, begin to fade into pale shades of hunger. The year is 1845. At first, it seems like a small misfortune, a strange disease affecting the potatoes, the heart of every Irish meal. But soon it spreads. Field after field turns black. The leaves wither. The crops rot in the ground. And with that quiet decay begins one of the darkest chapters in Ireland's long history, the Great Famine. Imagine standing on a quiet hillside, watching smoke rise faintly from a few lonely cottages below. The wind is cold, carrying the scent of wet soil and decay. A mother steps outside, her hands wrapped in a shawl. She looks at the empty field, once her family's lifeline. Now nothing but mud and ruin. Behind her, children sit near the hearth, their faces pale, their eyes too tired to cry. The silence inside those homes is deeper than any storm. It is the silence of hunger. As the seasons pass, the famine deepens. Potatoes, the only crop most families can afford to grow, have failed completely. Work is scarce. Food prices rise. In towns and villages, people line up for meager bowls of soup. Some walk miles barefoot, through rain and mud, searching for help. Some never return. Yet through the hardship, there is still kindness. Neighbors sharing what little they have, priests offering shelter, strangers praying together for mercy. Even in despair, the Irish spirit holds on to compassion. Let's take a slow walk through one of those famine roads, paths built by starving hands in exchange for food. The stones are rough beneath your feet, the mist thick in the air. You can almost hear the ghosts of footsteps, tired, slow, endless. These roads lead nowhere now, winding across empty hills, a quiet memory of human endurance. Every stone feels like a story, every turn a sigh. Between 1845 and 1852, more than 1 million lives are lost. Entire families vanish. Villages fall silent. Churches fill with prayers whispered in trembling voices. Ships, heavy with sorrow, leave Irish shores, carrying those who can escape. The emigrants look back one last time at their homeland, the cliffs fading in the mist, and promise never to forget. Across the oceans, in America, Canada, and beyond, small Irish communities begin to rise. They bring with them songs, language, and a longing for the home they left behind. Back in Ireland, the fields slowly heal, but the emptiness remains. You can still feel it in the air, even today. The quiet ache of those lost years. Many cottages crumble, their walls covered in ivy. Nature reclaims the land, but the memories stay. The famine was not only about hunger, it was about endurance. Imagine an old Irish man years later, sitting by the fire. He tells a young boy about the famine, his voice low and slow. He speaks not with anger, but with sadness and with pride that his people endured. The fire flickers gently, lighting his face as he says, "We are still here." And that simple sentence carries the weight of generations. Even in sorrow, Ireland learned to breathe again. The songs turned softer, the prayers deeper, the love for the land stronger. From hunger came resilience. From grief came unity. The island, wounded but alive, carried on, its spirit unbroken, its heart still beating beneath gray skies and green hills. As night falls on those empty roads, you can almost hear the wind carrying old voices, a lullaby for those who never came home, gentle, endless, like the sea that touches Ireland's shores. And as you listen, the story becomes not one of tragedy, but of survival. Because Ireland, even in its darkest hour, the long night that settled over Ireland begins at last to soften. After centuries of quiet endurance, of whispered hope, a gentle light appears on the horizon. It is not sudden nor loud, but like the first pale glow of morning after a long storm. Ireland, tired yet unbroken, starts to rise again. Imagine the early 1900s in Ireland. The streets of Dublin are calm in the early morning mist. Horses pull carts along cobblestone roads. Newspaper boys call out headlines in soft voices. People walk to work, their breaths forming tiny clouds in the cold air. But beneath this ordinary life, there is a quiet stirring, a sense that something is changing. In small homes and meeting halls, people talk once again about identity, language, and freedom, not with anger, but with a calm determination that has grown slowly, like roots beneath the soil. Ireland begins to rediscover itself. The Gaelic language, once fading, is taught again in schools. Old songs return to gatherings. Harps, once silenced, are played with pride. Writers, poets, and thinkers speak gently of a future shaped by Ireland's own voice. The Irish heart, which had been bruised by hardship, starts to beat with new rhythm. It is not a rebel drum now, but a soft heartbeat of culture and confidence. Let's take a slow walk through Dublin on a quiet evening in 1916. The gas lamps glow softly along O'Connell Street. The River Liffey reflects the silver moon, flowing steadily beneath the bridges. A group of men and women gather in a small room above a bookstore. Their voices are low, thoughtful. They speak of a dream, not of rule, but of belonging, a place where Irish stories, Irish traditions, and Irish people can grow in peace. They do not speak of fighting, they speak of home. But history often moves with steps we cannot control. In April of that year, the Easter rising shakes the silence. For a brief moment, the dream bursts into daylight, and then, just as quickly, is met with sorrow. The streets that were calm echo with conflict. When the dust settles, the rebellion is over, and many who took part are gone. Yet something has changed. Ireland grieves, but it also wakes. The dream that once lived only in whispers now lives openly in hearts. Picture a quiet Irish home a few years later. A mother sits by a small fireplace. Her children lean against her as she tells them about bravery, not of war, but of those who believed in a better tomorrow. Her voice is soft, steady. She does not glorify the past, but she keeps the hope alive. Outside, the wind rustles through the trees, as if carrying the stories forward. But history often moves with steps we cannot control. In April of that year, the Easter rising shakes the silence. For a brief moment, the dream bursts into daylight, and then, just as quickly, is met with sorrow. The streets that were calm echo with conflict. When the dust settles, the rebellion is over, and many who took part are gone. Yet something has changed. Ireland grieves, but it also wakes. The dream that once lived only in whispers now lives openly in hearts. Picture a quiet Irish home a few years later. A mother sits by a small fireplace. Her children lean against her as she tells them about bravery, not of war, but of those who believed in a better tomorrow. Her voice is soft, steady. She does not glorify the past, but she keeps the hope alive. Outside, the wind rustles through the trees, as if carrying the stories forward. By 1922, after long talks, long waiting, and long prayers, a new chapter begins. Ireland becomes, at last, a nation of its own, the Irish Free State. It is not perfect, and not all of Ireland is free, but it is a beginning, a dawn, gentle and new. Streets are still quiet, fields still green, and life still simple. But now, the air feels different, lighter, like the moment just before sunrise when the world holds its breath. Independence does not erase the past. It does not heal every wound, but it gives space to breathe, to dream, to belong. And Ireland, after centuries of hardship, finally stands with its own name, its own voice, its own light. Imagine the land on a peaceful night after independence. The sky is clear. Stars shine softly over the hills, just as they did for the Celts long ago. A farmer closes his cottage door, turns down the lamp, and smiles quietly to himself. The freedom his ancestors wished for is now real, not loud. And now, dear listener, after all the centuries, after the rise and fall of kingdoms, after hunger, hope, and change, Ireland breathes in peace. The winds that once carried battle cries now carry songs again. The hills that once saw sorrow now shine beneath soft sunlight. The land, rich and green as ever, has found its calm. Imagine walking slowly along the cliffs of Moher at dusk. The sea stretches endlessly before you, its waves gentle and deep. Far below, the water glimmers with golden light. A soft breeze touches your face, cool and kind. The cliffs rise high and silent, ancient and wise, watching the ocean just as they have for thousands of years. Each gust of wind feels like a whisper from the past, from the Celts, from the monks, from the farmers, from all those who came before and shaped this island with love and endurance. Today's Ireland is full of quiet beauty. In small villages, church bells still ring softly in the morning. Fishermen prepare their boats as dawn rises over calm harbors. Children run across green fields, laughing, their voices clear and happy. In the cities, old stone buildings stand beside new glass towers, a meeting of history and the present, side by side in peace. The pubs glow warmly in the evenings, not with rebellion, but with music and friendship. Fiddles and harps fill the air with melodies that sound both new and ancient. The Irish spirit is still here, calm, kind, and eternal. Let's take a slow walk through a quiet Irish town at night. The streets are clean, the windows lit with a golden glow. You can smell bread baking somewhere nearby. A man closes his shop, nods to his neighbor, and walks home beneath a sky full of stars. Somewhere, a song drifts from an open door, soft, full of memory. It's a song of joy, but also of reflection. Because in every Irish melody, the fields are still green. The rains still fall softly. The rivers still sing. The land has healed. The pain, though remembered, no longer hurts. It has turned into wisdom. The people carry that history quietly, not as a burden, but as a story that made them who they are. The Irish heart remains open to laughter, to tears, to dreams. As you stand by the water's edge, looking at the calm sea, you can almost hear the voices of history blending with the wind. The laughter of the Celts, the prayers of the monks, the songs of the farmers, the whispers of poets, and the steady beat of all who loved this land. Their stories float in the air like mist, gentle, endless, and full of peace. Float in the air like mist, gentle, endless, and full of peace. The night grows still. The stars shine above the emerald hills. The waves move softly against the shore. And Ireland, this small island of stories and songs, rests beneath the moonlight, peaceful, proud, and timeless. So as the wind hums a quiet tune and your eyes begin to grow heavy, let the story settle softly in your heart. Remember how far the land has come, how deeply it has loved, and how gently it endures. Ireland is no longer a land of sorrow, but of calm, where every hill, every stone, and every song carries peace.